Hello everyone, welcome back to Classic Comics. This video continues my look at the original story arc that J Michael Straczynski had planned for Babylon 5 and what elements might be included in the upcoming Babylon 5 reboot. I hope you enjoy it. The Minbari warrior caste overthrows the Grey Council and plans a renewed war with Earth. They also want Sinclair and Delenn both dead. The Centauri become increasingly expansionist and begin encroaching upon Babylon 5's sector of space. Londo and the Centauri's longtime involvement with the Shadows is finally revealed publicly. The Shadows and the Centauri destroy the Vorlon homeworld, which it turns out is actually a massive space station hundreds of miles long, which holds most of the Vorlon population. In the aftermath of this, Londo and the Shadows frame Sinclair for the destruction of the Vorlons, although it's not clear exactly how this is done. Outraged by the destruction of the Vorlons, the Minbari attack Babylon 5 and destroy it. But Sinclair and Delenn are able to escape with their newborn son. At this point, pretty much everyone in the galaxy wants them dead for one reason or another, including the government of Earth, which has been led to believe that Sinclair is a traitor. Presumably, most of the main characters on Babylon 5 are killed, except for Sinclair and Delenn, as well as Londo and Jakar, who are both on their homeworlds when Babylon 5 is destroyed. Now, this is where things go in a really different direction as Babylon 5 ends and the main arc is continued in the spin-off series, Babylon Prime. Sinclair, Delenn, and their allies, it's not clear who exactly these allies are, travel back in time to steal Babylon 4, and they take it about 20 years into the future, where the Shadow War is now in full swing. They use it as a base to build a new alliance against the Shadows, and B4 is renamed Babylon Prime. Babylon Prime can maneuver through space much like a starship, and they start traveling through the galaxy in an attempt to clear their names and build an alliance to bring peace to the galaxy. Time travel causes Sinclair, Delenn, and their infant son to all age rapidly. The baby's name is never given, but I'm going to call him David, as that's what he was named in the original series. As a result of time travel, David grows to adulthood within a couple of years. Londo is now the Centauri Emperor, and he is controlled by a keeper, much like in the original show. At one point, Londo and the Centauri capture Sinclair and Delenn, and are supposed to turn them over to the Shadows, but Londo rebels against the Keeper and helps them escape. It mentions that Londo does this at great personal cost, although it's not specified exactly what that cost is. David becomes a kind of messiah figure to much of the galaxy, and a new religion begins to grow up around him. In the end, Babylon Prime and the Army of Light defeat the Shadows, although it's not clear if they actually leave the galaxy or not, like they did in the original show. Curiously, there's almost no mention of the Vorlons during any of this. I get the impression that the Vorlons were pretty much wiped out in the B5 series. Also, Earth defeats the Minbari and Sinclair's name is cleared. As the series concludes, Delenn leaves Sinclair and returns to the Grey Council, presumably to help rebuild Minbar after the war, although it's not made clear why she needs to leave him in order to do this. A new interstellar alliance is born out of the Shadow War with David as its leader. The story ends with Sinclair, retired, living alone, and fishing. There are, of course, a number of plot elements from the TV series that were not mentioned in the synopsis. There's no mention of an Earth civil war or B5 seceding from Earth, although some of that storyline seems to have been shifted into Babylon Prime. While Clark is said to be controlled by the Psi Corps, and Psi Corps is said to be a nefarious group at odds with Sinclair and B5, there's no mention of the Earth Alliance being transformed into some kind of Orwellian police state. There's no mention of the Shadows actually working with Psi Corps or anyone else in EarthGov. There's also no mention of any larger conflict between telepaths and normal humans beyond Psychord just wanting more power. There's also no mention of a Minbari civil war either, but again, it seems likely some of that stuff was moved to the Babylon Prime series. There's no mention of Sinclair going to Zaha Doom, and in fact, there's no mention of Zaha Doom at all, or of him dying there and his subsequent resurrection. There's no mention of Lorien or any of the other first ones. There's also no mention of Kosh mentoring Sinclair or Kosh sacrificing himself. And there's no mention of Bester, Morden, Marcus, or any of the other characters that I haven't already named. Of course, it's possible that much of what happened in the original series would have happened anyway, but JMS wanted to keep much of it secret, so he didn't include it here. In addition, there are other aspects of the story that didn't get mentioned here that I think are likely to recur in some form. It's pretty clear that part of the original story was going to have the female first officer, originally Takashima and then Ivanova, and the telepath character, Lita, then Talia, then Lita again, entering into a lesbian relationship. There are hints at it, but they never really committed to it. I'm sure this is because the network at the time was nervous about doing that. This was broadcast television 30 years ago, after all, and homosexuality wasn't commonly portrayed back then. Now, homosexuals are pretty much mandatory, so I'm pretty sure this is a plot line that will be brought back in some way. In fact, I'd be surprised if this is the only homosexual relationship in the new show. The Minbari Civil War was a plotline that was clearly truncated on the first series, mainly because JMS thought that the show would not get a fifth season, so he just dealt with it mostly off camera and then wrapped it up after one or two episodes. If that plotline is brought back, then I think that aspect of the show will get fleshed out more. One plotline I think that we probably won't see in the reboot is the whole Byron telepath war storyline. I think we'll definitely get some sort of conflict between telepaths and normal humans, but it will play out differently. In fact, I think that the Psi Corps will play an even bigger role in the reboot than they did in the original series. Will they capture Garibaldi and brainwash him, causing him to betray Sheridan as in the original series? I'm guessing that won't happen again because it would be too predictable, and I think JMS will make changes in the narrative where he can in order to keep people guessing as to what's coming next, while also preserving the overall arc as much as he can. Now, let's talk about how the show might be influenced by modern Hollywood storytelling. In other words, will the B5 reboot be woke? As I've said before, to me, wokeness indicates a heavy emphasis on feminism, with female characters being prominent and male characters being absent or rendered weak or ineffectual in order to elevate the female characters. Also, Caucasian characters are de emphasized or absent altogether, especially white males, and LGBTQ, etc. characters are also moved to the forefront and get emphasized. Will we see this sort of thing in the reboot series? My guess is yes, it will be there to some extent, but I think in a fairly subtle, low key way. I would compare it to the way the Superman and Lois show on the CW is woke. It's present, but they don't beat you over the head with it. I'm actually mildly surprised that Sheridan is being presented as the central character. I thought for a while that the reboot series might actually change its focus more to Ivanova or another female character. JMS is writing the pilot, and I'm sure he'll write certain other pivotal episodes, but I believe he has said on X or whatever that he's not going to write the whole series again like he did last time. So he'll likely have a writer's room of some sort, and you can bet that some of those writers will be pushing wokeness in their scripts. Now, I'm sure JMS will have some oversight on the scripts. He'll review them and they'll have to have his personal approval before they get filmed, but he's unlikely to catch everything. And something we need to keep in mind is that JMS is pretty left wing himself. I think he's more of an old school liberal sort rather than a modern woke leftist, but he likely is not going to be opposed to more emphasis on LGBTQ characters and more emphasis on non white characters. So we should expect to see at least some of that. However, I think that JMS won't want his male characters humiliated or made to look stupid in order to elevate female characters. At least that's what I hope. So, to summarize, here's what I think we can expect. A bigger emphasis on female characters, non-white and homosexual characters, but the white males that are present won't be deconstructed or humiliated, hopefully. A darker, more morally ambiguous tone with more violence and profanity. Expect new characters, and expect some of the Caucasian characters from the first series to be race or gender swapped. I'm thinking in particular about characters such as Marcus, Corwin, Zack, or Morden. Also, more racial diversity among the Centauri characters. Londo or Veer might be played by a non Caucasian actor. One of the intriguing aspects of the story is the romance between Delenn and Sheridan. Originally, the Minbari were supposed to be a more androgynous race without obvious male or female genders. In The Gathering, Mira Furlan's makeup clearly was meant to de emphasize that she was a female, so that her later transformation into a human female would be more striking. Again, this seems to be a storyline that the network wasn't comfortable with, as after The Gathering, the Minbari makeup was changed to make them more obviously male and female. Expect this aspect of the story to be brought back and emphasized in a big way, as it plays very much into the political left's current obsession with transsexuals and choosing your gender and all of that. It'll be interesting to see how exactly this aspect of the story is handled. Another galactic threat from an ancient race of aliens, but there will surely be some key differences. Maybe it'll be the Vorlons who are the threat this time, or maybe some new race will be introduced. The only thing I'm sure of is that events won't play out in the same manner as the original show. Also, expect the aliens to be more alien, for lack of a better word. More CGI aliens that aren't just people wearing prosthetics, and don't be surprised if some of the more prominent alien races, such as the Minbari, Narn, or Centauri, are present but altered in some fundamental ways. The sinister government conspiracy, Psychor aspects of the story will be present and probably be emphasized. Again, there will be more ambiguity and fewer clear cut good guys. Yes, I know the original show had some moral ambiguity to it, but JMS will lean into it even more, I think. In fact, the more I think about it, the more I'm convinced that evil megacorporations like IPX, for example, will likely play an even more prominent role, especially in the government subversion aspects of the story. Once upon a time, when Hollywood would reboot some beloved IP, fans would get excited. Oh, wow, they're reviving that thing I like. And now I think many fans just groan and say, oh God, what are they going to do? But I think there's reason to hope here. My reasons stem mainly from JMS heading up this reboot himself and a belief that while he will likely lean into some aspects of modern storytelling, he won't allow his characters to be deconstructed or humiliated in the ways we've become accustomed to in recent years, and the show won't be just plain stupid the way some modern shows are now. No sonar in space, for example. Sheridan won't be a buffoon or an idiot, at least I don't think so. And let's face it, so many of the problems with modern Hollywood writing are frankly just a mix of intellectual laziness, stupidity, and plain lack of talent. JMS will presumably be picking the writers, and I like to think he will pick people who are actually talented and not just pick them because they are part of a certain group. That alone should make B5 better than most reboots we've gotten in recent years. Anyway, that's what I've come up with. What do you think we'll see in the B5 reboot? Do you think what I've mentioned here is accurate, or do you think the new show will go in some different direction? Are you even looking forward to the reboot at all, or would you prefer JMS not even do it? Do you think B5 will fall victim to the problems that so many other franchise reboots have had in recent years? Let me know in the comments, and also please like this video, sub to the channel, and while you're at it, check out some of my other videos, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching.